And so when that one comment was made that she's exhausting, she has to be exhausted, I was like, no, it doesn't say that she's exhausted. She's not worn out, overwhelmed, and like hanging on by a thread. Okay, I'm really excited to bring this topic to you today because I was reading on your social media last week and you made a post about the Proverbs 31 woman. And I've been thinking about her ever since. So I want to throw it out there in the beginning that I am, to our listeners, that I am going to go ahead and read from the Bible to start off. And I don't want that to scare away anyone that's not a believer. I don't want them to be like, I'm out. This is going to be a Bible topic. Because really what it is we're going to dig in about the pressures of being a woman topic, or the pressures on us as a wife. So stick through this with us, because I think this is going to be a really great conversation. I'm really excited for you and I to talk about this. But before we get started, I actually would like to read from Proverbs 31 in the Bible. And I'm reading from the NIV version. And we'll talk about it. I'm going to read it first, and then we'll talk a little more about it. So I'm starting on verse 10. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Let me start. Epilogue, the wife of noble character is what the way that it's titled. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still dark. She provides food for her family and portions for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat amongst the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, as he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the reward she has earned, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Oh, I love this passage. I love the portrait of who she is, too. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. I'm excited, too. And so I want to go ahead and throw out a couple myths. Immediately, some roll their eyes at all of this. And they believe that it's written by a man. Like a man is putting this standard out of what a woman should be. So she is a fictional woman, but it's a story that has been told and then written. And the story is told by a mother to her son in order to give him inspiration on praying for a wife, who to look for, and then what to admire in a woman when you see her. So I think that's super important. And I think about that as I'm raising a son and how I'm going to be leading him and guiding him going forward on finding the path for his future and the standards that I will try to inspire in him, but also inspire him to admire those standards in other people. So I wanted to throw that myth out right away. And so I'll tell you, this story by many is loved I can already tell by looking at you that you're one of those people who loves these character values. But by many, it's resented. So that's what I really want to talk about today is the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yeah, I agree exactly wholeheartedly with what you said, and that some people value it and some people resent it. And even when I posted it, and I don't remember right now what the context was.
I don't either. I just remember it stuck with me
but most everybody said, "Oh, thank you for this reminder. Oh, I needed this today." Those types of comments, such positivity, those types of things. But one person said, "Oh, she's exhausting. She has to be exhausted." And I was like, "Oh, no, that's not it." Like, I wanted to say, "Come over and have a cup of tea and let's read it together," because, oh, she's not exhausting. It's beautiful and powerful in a number of ways, considering the historical context in which it was written, where the mother said, "Son, this is the kind of wife you want." Notice there's nowhere in there where he's told to control her. He admires her. He respects her. He sits at the city gates. That's important because that's where the leaders of the city sat. So it even shows that he has a place of power within his community. But he's not controlling her day-to-day activities. She has her own business. Did you pick that up in there?
Right. Yes. I love it. I love that she's an entrepreneur. Like,
yes,
that's what it came down to.
And she makes decisions on whether or not she buys a vineyard. She's not consulting with her husband on it. He sits at the city gate with the elders. He praises her. He's very kind to her. He loves her. She's very kind to him. Like, she's watching over her family. She's making sure that their immediate needs are cared for, that they have the clothing that they need. Scarlet was important. That word scarlet is important, saying she's not just throwing any materials on them to keep them warm. Think about dyed fabrics back in the day. That was a luxury almost, And so she's providing them nice things. Purple was, I think it was the color of royalty. So really, she's really working hard. It says that she works to gather her food from afar. We take for granted that we can go to a grocery store and buy food from all over the world. And think about how, like, you and I even talk about this, how we try to get as many fruits and vegetables and nuts and all this variety in our diet because it provides better nutrition. Well, if we were just living off the land, like if we could only farm and raise animals in Chapin, South Carolina, what would we be eating?
And seasonably.
Yeah. So the fact that she's bringing food from afar, I love that little nugget in there too, because she's providing for her family's nutrition. Says she looks well to what goes on in her household. She doesn't eat the bread of idleness, but her worth is not wrapped up in who she is as a wife or a mother. It's just a part of her. Like, she's providing for her community, giving to the needy. And so when that one comment was made that, she's exhausting, she has to be exhausted, I was like, no, it doesn't say that she's exhausted. She's not worn out, overwhelmed, and like hanging on by a thread. She's getting up early and preparing for her day. Like, I see her with this settled peace and this settled joy and this this confidence about her as she goes about doing what she needs to do. I love it. She's not a gossip. There's nothing in there about her gossiping.
There's nothing also in here about her physical characteristics. Like, it's not.
Well, her arms.
Okay, she's strong,
Her
right?
arms are strong.
They talk about her being strong, but they don't talk about, like, if there's any wrinkles of aging and, or lack of beauty. It's really And I think that's a thing that I pull out of it too, is that she's not like, our culture has become so driven towards the worth of the physical appearance. And then people are falling apart inside.
Yeah.
And
You're
clearly
so right.
we're told here that beauty is fleeting.
Yeah, I think it's at the back.
Yeah, the very
Can
end.
you read that?
Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean she's not pulled together, like, but it means she's not trying to physically show up while she's crumbling inside. So for example, you mentioned that comment that you're like, no, like this is beautiful but where I think the misconception is this, and this is what we do in women in general, is we don't look at this as something to look up to. Instead, we look at it as something that we're falling short of. So when somebody would read this and find this exhausting, it's because they're then feeling like they're falling short in all these areas of their life.
Right.
Versus when you read this and you are pumped up by it, which clearly I looked at you while I was reading this and you had a smile on your face, because what you're seeing here is a beautiful instruction of a woman who is living by the gifts that God has given her. Like she's stepping into and walking forward and being obedient to God, and therefore like her gifts are shining.
Yes.
The things that she can do is shining. The reason she's able to do business and be an entrepreneur is because she's walking forward in that confidence of being able to do it. The reason that her arms are strong is because she's living out a gift that God has her. Like she's moving her body, preparing food for her family. That's a gift that God has given her. Now, if we were looking at that as falling short, if I read this over to you again and your mindset is falling short, it's just feeling like I never can get there, then this would be exhausting. Like, I mean, obviously I know that I'm not going to actually sew any clothes like that, but yet this is about providing and loving on.
Right.
If I am not loving on my family to make sure they have what they need, then that's what it's talking about. Like, we can't look at this also so literally that we roll our eyes at it.
Right.
Because again, this is a beautiful story of biblical times, but it's still a great guide for us to think about are we lifting up our husbands? Like,
are we providing them good, not harm, every day of their life?
Huge.
What does that mean? It could mean a lot of things.
Are we respected by our children? Have we put ourselves in a position to be respected by our children? Or have we let our children walk on us over the years? Because when I'm reading this, when I'm reading about her, I have a feeling she has a pretty firm foundation and pretty tight guardrails. Like the kids don't walk on her. Her husband doesn't walk on her, but she's loving all of them well.
And I think the back says her children call her blessed. And in the notes section, you might have to read it. I can't remember, but it's like faithful instruction on her tongue is given to her children and friends. She's a wise and loving counselor. And then in where it says her children arise and call her blessed, in the notes version here, it says that is one who enjoys happy circumstances and from whom joy radiates to others. Like, that's why I love to dig into these stories and say, what did the biblical author want to tell us in this? Like you said, this was a mother who was writing to her son. And we need help to understand this because this was written a long time ago and there have been multiple translations. And so you do need to look at different ways it was written, see what the words really meant. But you said too, it says she watches over the affairs of her household. She watches over the affairs of her household, but she's not trying to micromanage every person in her household. She's not oppressive to the people in her household. It's the opposite. Wise instruction is on her tongue, and people are coming to her for wise instruction. It says she does not eat the bread of idleness. Like, she's not just seeing what's happening and then whatever, they'll have to figure it out. No, she's not idle, but she's not controlling. And for your kids to call you blessed, that's hashtag goals. If that's no still doubt. Not too dorky to say.
No, I agree with you.
But for somebody to say, for your child to say, yeah, my mom really enjoys happy circumstances. My mom really enjoys happy times. And joy radiates from her. Wouldn't you want to grow up in a household with that kind of mom? I would.
Yeah, and I would love for my children to think that about me.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's gonna just beautify the way they see the world and the way they see what they can do in the world. I just love this.
And one of the things also, as far as thinking in my life of thinking this as an example, a beautiful example, is also I'm not all of these things at all of the time. I mean, there's times I totally fall short. And I think that's where also there's this resentment that comes out towards this standard of feeling like there's just no way. There's no way I can do all of that. Well, I'm not always doing all of that either. I mean, I definitely fall short. And that's why I'm so thankful for God's grace, because I can rebound from that. But the fact is that I continuously want to be this person. I want to be the person that I want my husband to want to come home at the end of the day and want to talk to me. I want him to want to call me and not feel like he's going to get a sharp tongue or a quick answer. I want my children to be encouraged by me so that they can go encourage in the world. I want to serve my family well. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be fixing them dinner 7 days a week. We may run through a restaurant, pick up some food. But I want them to feel provided, that I'm providing the things for them. I want the community to see me as someone that is a ray of light. And I know that I don't always show up that way, and I'm not going to beat myself down about it. I mean, that's really I'm not going to spend time on where I'm falling short. I want to look at this as a way that I can lift myself up.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And there is nothing about perfectionism in here. There's not even anything in here where she takes account of her life to measure up how she's doing next to anybody else.
I think that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just doing what she believes she should be doing.
What she's called to do.
What she's called to do. Yeah. And I love that a mom said, son, this is the type of wife you want to have. The type of woman you would want to partner with in life. And he's not threatened by her. In fact, this is a little side note where it says in this one, a wife of noble character, it's valor, and it's used only one other time, I believe, where it describes Gideon. But what it means is great courage in the face of danger, especially in battle.
And isn't that what we need to be as moms and wives?
Yeah. So then when you read it that way, a wife that's courageous character, because noble, that kind of sounds like, I don't know, royalty, nobility or something. What does that mean? Okay, but if it is also translated valor, and it's talking about having courage in the face of a battle, that's what the root word means. We face battles all the time. I love that. The more I learn about this, the more I love it even more. And I don't feel threatened I need to be exactly like this in everything. that I do. I can't ever mess up. I don't read it that way, but I probably did when I first started reading it years ago, when I first came across it and was like, wow, this woman's got it going on. I've got to figure this out. Yeah. But I'm also in a different headspace than I was back then. But I definitely see it as inspirational and encouraging, and ask why. Why is it important? Like the whole, she brings her food from afar. That dawned on me one day when I was like, okay, Lord, why is that important? She brings her food from afar. She brings her food from afar. What? Wait a second. And I started thinking about nutrition and how the agricultural system was back then, and what was the benefit of getting food from somewhere else? What's the benefit of it today? I mean, it just expands and explodes, and I love it. So I think it's a very progressive piece, especially for that time.
Yeah, I agree. And so when I thought about bringing it to the table, I did read somewhere where somebody wrote, it's about becoming. So it's not about beating yourself up for what you're not. It's about becoming what God is calling you to do, recognizing your gifts and strengths, loving on people well, and becoming that woman that is of noble character, but in exactly how you said, I mean, ready for battle, ready to stand up. And so I will continue to strive to be this Proverbs 31 woman. I absolutely love it. And I wanted to just go ahead and talk about it because, again, I know that there's some people just look at that as something that is a hard pill to swallow, instead of really thinking about it as becoming more like the Lord. So,
yeah. And when you look at who she's becoming as she grows in these areas, it's never ever just for herself. It's always for those that she has the opportunity to do life with in this world. You know, I think it's pretty cool. There are a lot of business messages in here too.
Yes. I thought of you in a couple different ones. We'll have to talk off camera about that. But as I was reading through it, but it really does. It encourages. It encourages smart money. It encourages being smart with your money, making wise decisions.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's actually, when you go through and pull it apart, like if we were going to do it line from line, and I hope that our readers are encouraged to sit down with it and look at it line for line, you can see how this story, this mother that gives this really wonderful, wise advice to her son, is covering lots of different areas to help them have a beautiful life.
Yes.
She is creating and setting some standards to say, if you want to have a beautiful life, and we both know that, and pursuing the Lord is the way, because in the end they say, fear, everything else can be fleeting, but a woman who fears God, which is in reverence of, or respect of. So this mother's just setting out this beautiful life that pleases God. These are the things that you need to keep your eye out for. And honestly, if I broke it down in current language, like made it really simple that I'd sit down and have a conversation with Jonah, I would say most of these things also. Somebody that is very smart with their money, that really considers that a responsibility. Somebody that is in service to others. They don't just think about themselves. They're not a selfish person.
Yes.
Yes. You know, all the different things, like these are the things. And it was so awesome that we were given this guide early on.
Yeah, I love it. I'm so interested in the business things that you want to talk about. But one I do want to talk about where it says that she provides portions for her servant girls. Like today, we could get hung up on that. What does that mean? a little context. You think back to when it was written and what life was like, and taking it into today's times. If somebody works for you, are you providing for that person every day for them to be successful? She was. It changed the way that I approached when I used to work with, when I had a team underneath me. I changed position, so I don't have a team now. But when I had a team underneath me, that one verse made me say, okay, how do I provide for the people on my team today to make them more successful in what they're doing? Because she's providing food for her family, and she's providing some for her servant girls. What's she doing? She's building them up. She's nourishing them so that they can be strong to do what they need to do. I put in processes based off that one verse. And I intentionally started looking at, okay, what am I asking my team members to do? The people that worked for me, under me, what am I asking them to do? And where are their gifts? Am I giving them tasks that match up with their skills and their gifts? Or are they? Am I really asking for something from them that causes frustration? It takes a lot of energy, mental energy, physical energy that just doesn't naturally come to them. And so we did a little restructuring. And it also, I went to my boss, who was my dad, and said, okay, this is what I think I want this person to do now, and this set of jobs. This is what I want this person to do, and I think we need to hire one other person to do this. You know, we broke it out. He was like, perfect, I love it. It was from just looking at that one thing, portions for her servant girls, which as a modern reader, you read over that and you're like, I don't have servants. No, but what is the author trying to say? And then, people that are doing stuff for you that are part of your team. I mean, I taught this. I don't think I've ever told you this. We didn't know each other then. I taught this at a women's retreat.
I didn't know that.
We took a women's retreat to the beach one weekend. I hosted it, and then this is what we taught and broke it down for this exact thing, to inspire women to step into the beautiful role that God has created them and step out of the angst, the feelings of failure and shame or guilt that you're not over the top, or that you are over the top, like whatever those feelings of guilt of not measuring up and then being worn out and exhausted. No. Let's look at a way to inspire us. What does God want for us? She's not involved in every single thing in the community. She's involved in things that really align with the gifts and talents and calling he's given her. You know, she doesn't buy every field she sees. She considers it. Is this worth my time and my energy? And I think in the Amplified, it says, out of her earnings of time and money, she plants a fruitful vineyard. So you may be able to afford something, but is it going to take too much of your energy? I love it.
And then also you mentioned it earlier, I'm just going to add it again, is that she doesn't sit around and think about the things that she's not doing or not good enough, or, you know, she doesn't spend time beating herself up.
Mm-hmm.
She's showing up instead of beating herself up.
Yes. I love it. And like you said, too, she doesn't do all of these things every day. She's not buying a field every single day. She's not planting a vineyard every single day. She's not making bedding for her family every single day. Like, no, this isn't, you have to do all these things every single day. So don't read it like that. Like, if somebody said everything that you do in your life, it would sound exhausting.
Yes.
But you don't do it every single day.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. Okay, so I love that we got to talk about this. Yes. Thanks for, I love that you even had so much more because that you've taught on this before, so it was perfect. But I really want to encourage our listeners who are interested. especially those that spend time in scripture, or even if you don't, like to go to Proverbs 31 verse 10 and read over it and do it with a heart of becoming closer to the person that God's called us to do, instead of in that feeling of not being enough or feeling short of. Because I think especially if you pray about that before you read it and then you read it, this may show up totally different for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll speak into you. All right. Thanks, Dee Dee, for this time. I love it.
I love it.
It makes me super happy. I was pumped walking in the door to get ready to talk to you about this. So if you would like to listen to more of our podcasts or check out our coaching business, please go to www.liveyourdesign.life and you can click on our podcasts or just kind of look at the content that we have there. And if you like what you heard today, please go to the Note Show reviews and drop us a review. We would love to hear from you, but also it's awesome for us to know that there are people out there listening that love it. And if there's anything in particular that you want us to talk about during our podcast, then on our website, there's an opportunity to contact us. And I would love for you to send some of the topics that you think that women would like to hear about. So until next time, have a great day.